A general contractor with over 1,000 design build dental offices, with 2 books and a college professor. You don't hear that every day. After hearing Dr. Stephen Glossman's episode on That Entrepreneur Show, we forged a relationship, and he will be on that show too. But for this show, I want to welcome you back to Writing with Authors. My name is Vincent A. Lancy, and my latest book is Mental Health Week, the go-to book for elementary school students to level up their mental health. Our guest's new book, DentalEase, the essential guide to creating the stress-free and profitable dental practice of your dreams, is a detailed written account of his expert knowledge on the subject. The goal of this essential guide is to assist dentists in making educated decisions effortlessly and minimizing the painful and expensive lessons many experience. He knows how to create a dream dental office. As I said, he's done 1,000 of them and more. We're going to learn how he put it all into this book and also learn about his first book. Steve Anderson, thank you for connecting and thank you for joining the show.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Vincent.
Would you mind introducing yourself more on the personal side to our audience before we dive into book talk?
Well, as you know, I'm a general contractor. Back in '97, I was driving to work one day and going, I'm tired of being everything to everyone, kind of similar to your path. You know, there was a life change, and realized that I wanted more out of it. And in that process, I'm thinking, and it's only a 20-minute drive. And by the time I got to work, I decided that, well, dentist was it, because I thought back about how many dentist offices I had completed up to that date. And repeatedly, I would see disappointment, not in our construction, but in disappointment in the process, disappointment in seeing results that they didn't want, and misconnections, lack of communication, and follow through, and people not listening to their dream, and the dream wasn't being realized. And so thus I came up with DENCO dental construction, which, you know, DEN stands for dental and CO stands for construction. I'm a very simple guy. And so, I had my business plan, you know, as I walked in the door, and I started canceling all my residential contracting and started focusing on medical dental, and off I went. But the best thing I did at that point was I took 8 dentists that were successful dentists to lunch and asked the best questions, you know, the questions of what could I have done better, what should I do now, and suggestions they had, and is very insightful to the dentist world.
I like that a lot. I'm putting that in my notes here for when this episode comes out. You took 8 dentists out to lunch. You asked all the questions you needed to make your process more efficient. As you said, you were getting frustrated with the process. Let's now talk about your latest release, DentalEase.
Yes, well, it was a combination. Basically, the first book I had taken about 4 or 5 foot, literally pile of notes. And I knew I was going to do it when I started specializing in it. I kept throwing notes in a pile and stuff that I knew that I was going to do, but you never have time. Well, in 2008, what happened? We had a little bit of time. Market crashed, and all of a sudden, all my dentists stuck their head in the sand, and, you know, they're very conservative, and they're going, oh my God, the sky is falling. And at that point, I said, okay, what do I need to do? And that was the beginning of being able to compile it, put it into rational form, and really think through it, put together slideshows. I realized at that time, one of my dreams was to speak at the colleges, and that's when I started speaking at colleges with my first book. It was more of a footnote type thing, and it was about a 100-page book, and gave it to all the students for free. And that's something that I really was important to me, is giving back to the community. And then at that point, I go, okay, you know, I really want to do the second book, but the challenge is I'm going, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. And was very hesitant, Vincent, of taking and setting aside and devoting that much time. And finally, after a lot of coaxing and stuff, people said, well, there's nothing like that. do it. And I ended up putting it together, and that was the challenge. I mean, the biggest challenge is you go first book was Amazon, to make it easy. And the second one I got talked into, well, just self-publish. Oh my gosh. I don't know if I do that again.
I do this self-publishing through the Amazon route, the KDP. As you said, it's just easy and it's very simple. You just plug in the information, upload the documents, but there are pros and cons to every process, and Amazon does have a few cons, which you will experience if you hop on. You mentioned you always had these notes piling up. Was this always with the intention of eventually creating a book, or did you just have so many notes one day where you said this can go into the book?
No, it was on my heart to do that day one. I literally can remember standing on a job site and just thinking about some of the processes and just a current client and some of their pain points that they were going through. And I'm going to put this in writing. And so literally I purposely started creating notes. And, back then I've never been an IT guru and one with really flowed when typing wasn't my skill set. And so I'd had all my scribbles and notes and all that stuff. And then I saw the pile getting bigger and bigger. And then the challenge came in. God, now I got to compile the damn thing.
Yeah. Well, COVID gave us a little more time, similarly to 2008. In 2008, I was getting ready to graduate high school. I was getting ready to go to college at that point. And because of the financial times, I thought to myself, which major could I choose that would give me a high likelihood of getting a job even through this recession if it lasted? That's why I chose finance, ended up enjoying the art of finance as well. But as we spoke about before the show, through my life experiences, it led me to becoming a published author. And now we are with Mental Health Week.
Yeah.
You mentioned how it's a long process, Steve. Can you give 2 pieces of advice for our fellow writers on this journey?
The best is taking the time to find someone that you really, really can trust and really is seasoned and understand the process. For me, I also find that trusted advisor. I talk about it in my book about the importance of finding trusted, accountable professionals. And when you go the route of self-publishing, you got to do some marketing. You got to put yourself out there. And being naive, I went on a friend's recommendation and should have known better, because his book was about kickbacks and how to make his pockets better. And so unfortunately, I didn't read his book first and spent a bunch of money and no results. And so that was probably the biggest single thing. And then, and realize whether you're in it for self-marketing is the second one, is whether you're in for doing all that marketing, all that extra work yourself. It's not for the faint of heart, and it's not for thin pockets. You have to have some deep pockets to be able to self-publish and do all that stuff. And so if you want to just get it out there and realize a little bit of revenue, go that route. It's so much easier to go a route where someone else takes care of it all and you just get a percentage.
It is much easier. And part of me, of course, wants to try that. I think soon enough, when I do more fictional books like the one behind me, I'm going to look towards the publishing route. Because as a solopreneur, as you mentioned, the more money you have, the further your message gets. And for me, it's really putting myself out there and then also trying to balance, am I bombarding my timeline with looking like I'm trying to sell my book and for my book? So balancing that, I can relate to. You also mentioned mentors, and then how your book was a different genre than the person you sought out. A great lesson learned right there. Even in my personal career, I have different mentors where in different fields, where certain advice I go to different people, because the way I put it is, you wouldn't think to go to a teacher traditionally for car advice, and you want to go to a mechanic for teaching, for classroom advice. You want to go to a finance professional for cooking advice. You want to go to someone who's an expert to get the best advice. Would you agree with that, Steve?
I do, and the tendency, nationally is our tendency is to want to hire someone cheap, and then you get what you pay for usually. And so, you can pay a little bit more and get there a lot quicker and a lot faster and with better expertise. And it's different. The second person I hired is, day and night. It's I paid a lot of money but unfortunately I paid a lot of money for the first one, and actually the second one is a little less. But the issue is a lot more focused, a lot more real time, a lot more understanding of the market and what works and what doesn't, and that's so valuable.
Before I get your contact info, where to find all of your books, would you mind providing some advice on that process you went through of learning from the first one, but where did you find the better second candidate? How did you go about finding someone more qualified?
I actually, it was through, for me, it was through a very large company that is in the dental community. And I started talking to them about my needs, and I was very specific, but being open. That's the biggest thing that we do quite often is we want to shield ourselves, and we don't want to let anyone know that we screwed up. People actually will have empathy. Really good people will have empathy with you, and seek out those that really are like-minded, people that want to really make a difference, people that really want to that understand what's important, and it's not always about money. And for me, it's never been about money. It's about getting the word out just to help make a difference in this world for dentists. Is that's my passion, is making a difference in dentists' lives.
A lot of great things there. Again, find like-minded individuals, open communication, and being specific. If you don't do those two things, you will eventually just waste time and probably not find yourself in a good fit. I loved it. I loved all the advice, going back to the different mentors for different reasons. Find someone in your book genre, seek all that advice. Now, Steve, please tell everybody where they can find your books, where they can find you.
Okay, so it's called dreamdentalpractice.net, dreamdentalpractice.net, or you can just look up DentalEase. It's one word, and you can always look for DENCO Dental Construction.
Yes, that's DentalEase with an E at the end. Steve, I want to thank you so much for joining this community of writers. We look forward to your episodes on our other platforms. To everyone viewing on, thank you for tuning in to another episode. Your support keeps this show going. We now have authors from Arizona joining the show to add to our list. Steve, thank you again.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Vincent.